homemade goodness, and the Hancock name you know and trust for quality for your family. Hancock's Neighborhood Market on Commerce Street in Cadiz.
Since 1978, Perry's Floors & More has been selling, installing, and servicing homeowners throughout Western Kentucky with quality flooring and workmanship. Perry's Floors & More carries luxury vinyl plank and luxury vinyl tile, carpet, window treatments, and more. Brands like Mannington, Shaw, Tarkett, Beaulieu, and Flexitech. Quality brands, excellent customer service, combined with 40 years experience is why they say you can walk on our reputation. See Bill and Lucy at Perry's Floors & More, 127 West Market Street, Princeton.
Are you looking to shed those extra holiday pounds? Do you
Hey, are you there? Fifteen 103.3 WPKY. Tess and Ty and Coffee Talk is on the air this morning at 8:08. And of course, we've been hearing a lot about this weather. And and I will say it kind of come into view kind of I don't know. I didn't really hear a lot about it until all of a sudden, Ty, I heard a lot about it. And then it was, it went from kind of not on my radar to really on my radar all of a sudden, because now we got to prepare, right?
That's exactly right, because we've had a lot of rain lately, and it looks like we've got another huge storm forming out in our southwest, low pressure system, and it's heading up our way, going to come right up the Mississippi Delta and provide a lot of moisture for our area and rain.
Well, and I'll tell you, one of the things is getting the knowledge and what's going to happen. And as usual, there's a lot of he said, she said, and different information that flies at you and all of that kind of stuff. And one of the people that I always trust for it, because I know that this guy is really doing his homework and he really knows what he's talking about, and that's David Powell. And we're lucky enough and fortunate enough to get him on the air this morning. So, David, are you there? I can hear you great.
We got you. Good morning.
I'll tell you, I said, that you're the one guy that I know actually knows what's going on and what we can expect, because you're on the phone and in talks and conference calls with the National Weather Service and really staying on top of it. And that's, I really think most of the time we're a lot less scared when we know what to expect, because then we can prepare for it properly. I know. Well, you did it first. Don't get me wrong. I know you are the man. I'd never say you're not the man, because you're the man. But it wasn't on I guess I wasn't really thinking about it. I mean, I'd read the post and that sort of thing, but I guess I wasn't really thinking about how intense it could be. And then yesterday I really looked at it and went, oh, wow. Oh, Well, when we think about that, when you talk, I think sometimes what we say, when we're trying to prepare, we say, well, I really don't know what else to do. And when we're talking about rainfall, there's my road floods every time it rains. But when you're, talking about a short amount of time that this is supposed to fall in, we're not talking about 3 or 5 inches within a couple of weeks. We're talking about several inches within hours, right? Now that's flash flooding, right? Well, and I think, when we're talking about things like, when I told you yesterday, my road had been closed up until yesterday because every time it rains, it really and truly covers the road. But, if the ground is already saturated, that makes it really easy for those creeks and everything else to just dump the water because there's no place else for it to go.
And David, this low pressure system that's coming up out of the southwest, pretty strong one, isn't it? Of course, the forecasts are saying wind gusts as high as 32 miles per hour, and there'll be, of course, those low pressure systems rotate counterclockwise, and we'll have those winds, I guess, out of the south-southwest, and then they'll shift around once the front's through, and it gets through, out of the northwest, and guess what? It's going to get colder, isn't it?
Well, it's hard to figure though, because for a lot of us, it's hard to justify that in our brain where it's 69 on one day, and then, the front pushes through, and now we're at 30 degrees all over again. That in our brain. Well, and what does this, what kind of lasting effects? When we have rain and warm events like what we have, and you talked about that, that does really make a difference with trees and the structure of those trees and the roots and that sort of thing. What kind of lasting effects can these kind of temperatures have on us later on? I mean, your insect cycle and all kinds of stuff. Aren't these temperatures really going to kind of throw those cycles off? Well, I'll tell you, David, I appreciate it, and so does Ty, and all of us. That it's one of those things that it's hard to understand. Exactly when we talk about severe storms and we talk about rain totals and that sort of thing, and potential flooding and flash flooding. It's nice to have you there to explain those things to us, because sometimes that can be really confusing. Well, I'll tell you, David, I appreciate it, and so does Ty, and all of us. That it's. Well, I tell you, we sure appreciate it. Maybe closer till time, we'll just have to holler at you again and keep us updated on what's going on there, because it, like you said, it can really make a difference on, what is that old saying? I'll be there as long as the creeks don't rise. What is that? I'll see you in the morning. There's an old saying that goes along with that. Well, I tell you, David, we sure appreciate you. I'll tell you who we've got coming up next here in a second. It's going to be, we're doing a whole 2-part series, because here in a minute we're going to talk to Bridgie Miller, and we're going to go over kind of what you do for your animals and how to get them to higher ground, and how to prepare for a situation like this. So I think you should. Hey, we do appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Be careful and try to get some rest, because I think everybody's going to be calling you in a couple of days. Okay. Well, thanks so much. We appreciate you. Have a great one. Hey, and again, that's David Powell with, of course, our radio station. We are so fortunate to have him.
WKDZ, WHO, WPKY Weather Edge, and we certainly appreciate him as our forecaster. And lots of knowledge there, and he studies it a long way out. And we certainly appreciate him stopping by and keeping us informed of this rain event that's coming up in later in the week. It's Tess and Ty Coffee Talk, 821 1580 103.3 WPKY.
WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast is calling for some gorgeous sunshine today. Of course, high 49 tonight, clear, low 31. Tomorrow, sunny, high 51. And then on Thursday, again, that 40% chance of showers after lunchtime and a high of 56 is going to turn into our rain event. No matter how much rainfall we do get, that's when it's going to start. It's Thursday night. Those winds are going to start picking up to about 30 mile an hour. Low only 51 Thursday night, and then a high of 63 on Friday with showers pretty well all day. And again, those wind gusts could be around 30 mile an hour. It is 36 at 821 1580 103.3 WPKY.
Your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast is brought to you by Wallace Towing.
I'm Dr. Doug of Doug Edrington's Professional Counseling in Princeton. If you're unhappy in your lifestyle, it could be depression, it could be childbearing, it could be any kind of problem that you're having in your life, call me. You don't have to do it by yourself. My number is 270-601-0324. Again, 270-601-0324 is my phone number. Let's work out your problems together.
Did you know that in the 1960s, 92% of Americans listened to local radio every week? What do you think it is now?
I bet it's a lot less.
Would you believe that it's still 92%?
Wait, you mean more people listen to radio than TV?
Yes, more people use local radio every week than any other device.
I know I listen. I just didn't realize that everyone else does too.
92% of Americans listen every week. You are right now. Thanks. This message brought to you by your local area radio stations. You can count on us.
1580 103.3 WPKY, Tess and Ty and Bridgie Miller on Coffee Talk this morning. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are y'all doing today?
Well, we're doing good. How's retirement?
Good. Highly recommend it.
I started to say, do you really know what retirement feels like? I mean, really? I don't think you've retired.
I stay busy, and I thank the good Lord for giving me the health to be able to do what I do.
Right.
I'm pastoring a church, as you probably know now, and I've got 5 grandchildren. I've got my horses, and first and foremost, I do what my wife tells me to do, and that's pretty much a full-time job right there.
The honey-do list.
Exactly, doing what she tells me to do on stuff. So, and I try to, can't say all the time, but I try to catch most of the time the Tess and Ty in the morning on it, whatever. And in fact, talking about that, before we get to our conversation, our topic, I wanted to compliment you, Ty, on Todd and you on the Thursday morning, the Tiger Sports.
Oh, thank you.
That you did, the last one that you did. It was sort of a recap of the past year on certain things with it, and having sat in that chair for 16 years in broadcasting, it sort of reminded me of individuals, that young men and women I got to call through the past year on it. But there was one question that was not answered.
Okay.
That I'd like to try to get the answer to, if I could. I know my answer to
Probably can't get it out of me. Todd's probably.
No, this would be one because it involves you. There's no question who was the best Englebright tennis player. Okay.
You mean as far?
It's your niece. I mean,
there's no doubt about that.
Now let's go back several years on it and stuff. Between Jay and you, who was the better tennis player?
There's no doubt it was my brother.
Okay, that's
now I was MVP of the team in '86. But I played like the 6th or 7th seed. Okay. I was a junk baller and won all my matches. But no, my brother was far and away.
I remember both of you playing on it, and I'll tell you, both of you very good tennis players on it. And I'm glad to see that the apple hadn't fallen far from the tree with your niece and his daughter.
Yeah, she's done fantastic, and hopefully, she's in her senior year, and we've got, with the coaches, with Coach Farmer and Coach Janina retiring, and Coach Kukiko picking it up.
What a great opportunity for the Tiger tennis team to have 2 stellar individuals such as Kim and Raymond, then them stepping down, and to be able to pick up Steve Kukiko.
That's right.
How awesome that is, because Steve has so much coaching experience and so much knowledge. I mean, I always thought junior pro football was created because of him.
Yes.
I mean, on what all he did, and to be able to give that knowledge and experience to step into this sport as well. I mean, we're very fortunate.
We certainly are, no doubt about it.
Well, I know he was a little nervous about the whole tennis part of that, and I told him, I said, you're a great coach. Yeah, and he is. He's just a great coach, and I don't think it matters what sport it is. I think he's just a great coach in general.
Well, and respect.
Right.
And now you can't find anyone that doesn't respect Steve Kukiko. I mean, with what all he's done and what he gives of himself to doing things, and
no doubt,
I'm just glad to be able to see that it keeps going and people are coming to the plate to be able to step up and to be able to do that on it. So,
what makes this community great, because people step up to the plate to do things. So
exactly.
No doubt.
And
he's going to shoot us all later. You know that, right?
And not scared to swing even if we miss.
No doubt about it.
Well, and you learn a lot from missing. That's what my grandma used to tell me. You learn just as much from messing up as you do doing it right.
I got more out of the mistakes and the errors than I ever did out of the few successes on things.
If nothing else, you learn what not to do next time.
Exactly. But I'm glad to say that we can put on record that Jay was the better.
No doubt about it. If my brother is listening this morning, Jay, I don't think I've ever been able to compete at his level. So
well,
he still plays. So
that guy is actually a regular member of the morning show. He doesn't realize it, I don't think, but he's on our morning show on a weekally basis multiple times because Ty tattles on it.
Yeah, you know how much I think of you on it, Ty. So I know I could put this in.
No doubt about it.
You wouldn't have any problem.
I have no problem with it, and I certainly appreciate you reminding me of who is the better tennis player.
I love that. Can I just say that I'm so glad Bridgie's here this morning. I've enjoyed it already.
And if I come next month, I can renew this conversation with you about the tennis.
There's lots of things my brother does better than I do.
Well, we can go over the list.
We can,
no,
I'll submit you some hints.
No, I'll tell you what. Like I said, in case you don't know, Ty's brother, Jay's an awesome individual, and like I said, it's good addition y'all to our community.
Well, thank you. That's very nice.
Go way back on it. Too,
yes, sir. We do.
Sometimes there's benefits to being an only child. I'm just saying.
Yes, speaking, I am an only child, so yeah. Speaking of that, being the only child, but seriously, what you and Todd last week on that, I really enjoyed that, reminiscing, going back over.
And of course, Todd's memory is like a steel trap, so he doesn't. I just was sort of just there. Commenting on the things that he brought up, but it was an incredible look back at our sports year, because lots of things, good things, a lot of tragic things, yes. but things that seem to bring our community together. And as you know very well, all of us that are blessed to live here in this fine community, we always come together.
Well, you know what? Exactly. When you were talking about it, when you talked about people stepping up. And that's one of the things that when you go to a basketball game right now with the Caldwell County Tigers, when you walk in, their warm-up shirts say Barn Strong on them. And
exactly.
That, it goes beyond a specific sport. It's one of those things where, when you look back at the year, we have had a lot of tragedy and we've had a lot of overcoming, and these kids have really had to kind of, where you pull your boots on and tighten them on a little tighter, and get up and keep going.
But we had some successes as well, one of which you just talked about. We stayed local, and Will Barnes is going to be taking over Tiger Helm.
Yes.
So I'm very pleased with that, to be able to do that. When you was talking about Todd having the mind that he has, for 13 of my 16 years of broadcasting these ball games, I had the opportunity to work with one of your fellow employees, Tom Rogers. Mm-hmm. And another individual
guy
that has got a mind. There'd be times I'd just be sitting there going, say what? He could know all this and do all that. I learned so much from Tom about broadcasting, and also about just operating equipment.
Heck of a broadcaster.
Work.
Yeah,
I think you give him 2 cans in the string, he'd figure a way to get it on the air. So, and that was good to be able to have that type of knowledge here that you have. And now also for the Edge group, you've got Scott Brown. I mean, you're having the opportunity to work with Todd, Tom, Scott, all these.
Eddie Owen.
Yes, exactly. All these individuals that I've been fortunate enough to sit next to in ball games and to watch them work on it. And what I'm glad, we've got it concentrated right here in Princeton, Kentucky, Cadiz, Kentucky, Hopkinsville. We've got all these fine individuals right here, and we're much better off.
No doubt.
Well, I think it makes a tight-knit community when not only your community can come together for the good parts and the bad parts all year long. I think it makes it a tighter, more like a family rather than, a room full of people.
Exactly. And I know one thing that Tom always impressed was he wanted to see individuals come to the ball game. He wanted to have people come and support in person.
Right.
But if you couldn't, tune into the radio station. We'll bring
and a fine example of Tom is yoursportsedge.com and the Edge Media Group, the Kentucky Broadcast Association Digital Product of the Year. They're just awarded that. So it's a new age of how sports is covered, and they're blazing the trail on the cutting edge of digital technology to cover sports.
And you know what? Dennis and Bob are doing such a great job. I mean, they really are. Yes. What a solid team. When you listen to it, I love it, and I'm going to admit it. What I never used to do was listen to it while I was at the game. That wasn't anything that I had ever done before. And I will tell you, they got me started doing it. And it takes your experience so much farther when you're listening to it while you're at the game.
Yes.
And it's like you never miss a beat. And there's so many little things and intricate details of the game that you miss when you're not listening to it. So I think that just increases and enhances that. And Bob and Dennis do such a fantastic job.
And again, we're fortunate to have them here to be able to do this. But it all, the motto that you have here at the school system, IAAK, it's all about the kids.
Right.
And that's what it is about, in this community coming together for them.
Well, I'll tell you, when we're talking about community coming together, that's one of the reasons why, we asked him here today, is because we were, we talked about weather and weather situations, and we've been in bad weather situations before where our community came together. The ice storm, that was something that, really and truly we didn't see coming as much as what it was. I don't think anybody really thought or knew what was coming when that did happen. We've seen a lot of flooding over the last, few years when it come to, well, of course, we're around the lakes and the river and that sort of thing. So I guess that's when you start seeing, that kind of stuff starts becoming a reality. But I think the community normally just really kind of bands together and helps out.
Well,
but
it's like you were saying on it though, Tess, when we're not accustomed to something, we can only do so much on preparedness to be able to take care of that situation. And you prepare and prepare and prepare. And it's about like insurance that I look at. I've got insurance, but I pray the good Lord never have to use it on anything, because that means a calamity has struck with it. And when you called me the other day, and one thing we want to talk about, and I want to go over this, and I appreciate having the opportunity. When I was county attorney, I had the opportunity several times to be able to talk about situations that were extreme in nature, but also something we need to do on a daily basis when we look at taking care of our animals. And I found out, with David on the segue coming into us talking right now, we could be having something to where a lot of rain very fast. And when that occurs, you don't really think about what it can do, rain coming over a slower period of time versus coming in bam, bam, bam on that. And that's one thing that I wanted to go over with everyone about and to talk. I've usually found that temperature extremes, weather extremes, is when we need to pay the most attention, but sometimes we have the least attention because we think of normalcy. We think of just a rote situation on what we're trying to do.
Well, and here lately we've kind of got used to the mild temps too, because we've had a lot of them. So, these warmer temperatures this week really don't seem way out of the norm for us.
This is called winter.
Right.
I mean, here for right now. But now, I remember like about 3 weeks ago, I think we had some what I would call bitterly cold type
yes,
temperature
the
for
flash
a while.
freeze.
Exactly. So in looking at that, let's be sure that with the temperature extremes, we think of our animals. Looking at say, dogs. Okay. With dogs out there, you have to try to remember that while you might put a bowl of water out for them, that can freeze. And, you need to be sure that that's chopped up. You need to be sure they've got taken care of. You need to be sure that you have adequate housing for them, shelter out there as well. And while you're thinking, I remember when I was a small child, we had a dog house. And with that dog house, that was fine for our dog. But if it got really cold, my father always get a bale of straw, put it in there. To go to that extra step to be able to do something, to take care of them, to think what's being done. Also remember about the food out there. You just don't want to put food out there and leave it because that can freeze as well. You need to be thinking about.
And when it does get wet like that, then that's how mold starts being created, and the animal can get really sick.
Exactly.
And if you're talking about, a lot of people think, well, it's cows, it's horses, that sort of thing. They're big, they can handle it. That's not necessarily the case, because I've known horses that were much more delicate than what the Chihuahuas that I knew were.
Well, when you talk about horses, I mean, you look at horses are herd animals, so they're accustomed to being out there with each other on it. But when you talk about that, you think that they're accustomed to be able to handle it. That was back in the day to where they could seek higher ground, where they could go someplace, where they could get into an area. Now, horses with it generally have fenced-in areas, and there's just certain places they can go. And if you think about it, areas do flood. And even you think, well, if this starts to flood, I'll get them out of there. If it floods so quickly, like what we might be talking about on it, Tess and Ty, you might not be able to get to those horses to be able to get out there, because then you get mud. And a lot of people don't realize this. One of the worst enemies you can find for a horse is mud, because it limits their movement on what they can do, how they can get about, how they can do things.
When you talk about 3 or 4 inches in a 12-hour period, I mean, Bridgie, that's a lot of water. And when you talk about flash flooding, that's all at once. And when it's that fast,
and on already saturated ground too.
Right.
Yeah, and also looking at blanketing them as well. While you want to try to keep them warm and dry to an extent, rain gets on it, mud gets on it, that just hampers it even more.
Right.
It gets more. You've got to be sure and to check underneath, take the blanket off, check underneath the horse to be sure if there's any type of sores being on them. And what we're talking about can be said not only just for inclement weather. It's something we need to do each and every day by being a property owner, by being a horse owner, by being a dog owner, because they give you so much enjoyment. And they're God's creatures. We're charged with taking care of them, and that's one thing that we need to be looking at. And I know when I was taking care of horses, and it would really cold weather, then you have ice.
Oh, yes.
And if you didn't have those things called the water warmers that you could put in or do, you always had to look at breaking the ice. And you talk about the ice storm.
Right.
Well, the water warmers didn't work back then because they went off house current. Or electrical current. Well, with that, then you'd have to go out there and chop that ice, because you think about it, they can't get through to that ice
That's
in
right.
a bucket to be able to get a drink, which they need to have. And, you think about how much you drink during the course of a day, water, any type of liquid substance, multiply that probably by about 10. And you'll see how much a horse is going to be drinking. So you've got to be careful on what you're doing. And the same thing when you think about, well, okay, I'm going to take my dog with me to the store or whatever. Same thing inside the vehicle. Cold can affect just as much as heat. We think about heat as well, in the summertime in there. But also when you look at cold inside on a vehicle, think how you might be affected on that, and think about your animal in the vehicle with it as well. So
one thing I heard about that is it's actually just as bad for them. And when you're trying to keep your animal dry, as it is anything, because they can stay warmer a lot longer with their own body heat and their own fur as long as they stay dry. And the moment that they get wet, it gets past that first layer of fur and goes all the way, it seems like, chilled to the bone. And dry is like the number one thing.
You look at a dog's feet, the paws that they have, the protection and the padding right there as well. You don't want that to stay wet constantly, or mud in there, or caking in there, because then it comes in mud. It will come in and it will dry, expand, cracking is occurring. So you need to be careful when you look at this. And of course, one thing we never like to see is seeing an animal that's chained.
Right.
Now, sometimes you have an animal chained and they're able to have a house that they can go to or have something. And I know that we have that protection on it. But dogs can get into a situation where they can get hung on the chain, where they wrapped up in the chain. So you've got to be careful that you check all of that to be sure. I'm sure you've seen.
Well, and if you're in a flash flood situation, you don't want to leave your dog chained, because what if it floods and then he can't get to higher ground if he's chained?
Exactly.
But there are also some issues there, aren't there, Bridgie, with animal cruelty? There's a line there that could be crossed. Is that something that you need to be aware of?
KRS Chapter 525.130 is a law we've had on the book for several years, cruelty to animals in the second degree. And it has several things that you have, but the one I'm going to talk about, concentrate on, it talks about it's a Class A misdemeanor, punishable maximum fine of $500 and up to 12 months in jail. Failing to provide adequate food, drink, space, or health care, or by any other means for your animal. Mm-hmm. So exactly.
And that doesn't mean that you can, some dogs like to live outside, and right. You have to take them outside at some point. But that means don't leave them on a chain for 2 or 3 days at a time with no water and no food and no shelter and in moderation. Yeah, they like to stay outside. They like to live outside. But give them some decent living quarters while they're out there,
right. Exactly. But another thing with it, when I was talking about, you need to be checking on the animal.
Right.
What you were looking at, don't just have them out there 2 or 3 days and never go look at them.
Right.
I mean, because you never know what could happen about a dog being chained. The chain get wrapped around something or around them. Be sure that you're looking, because they can't do anything. Right. They're up to you to be able to take.
But what happens if we need to evacuate as people? Like when we have horses and that sort of thing, our horses have to come with us. So what happens if we get into a situation where the flood waters are rising, and the banks of the creek, and we can't get in and out? What do we do? Do we bring them with us because there's no place for them at the hotel?
Well,
what do we do?
I know what I would tell my wife. With my horse, I'm gonna bring him to my house if I have to. And that's what I've threatened to do. Take him to my house. But no, my horse is very well cared for, and he's taken care of where he's boarded now. But you have to also remember, some people aren't as fortunate to have an animal like where I have mine boarded.
Mine are in my house. I mean, that's that's the way that it is.
Yeah,
and
but
I
dare to say there's not a day goes by you don't check on them.
Right.
There's not.
Well,
a day
I see them when I
that,
walk out the door.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
exactly.
right there hollering at me.
Exactly. But also, the question you've asked is something that you're thinking about as well. Okay, if we get this flash flood, where on my property am I going to be putting them or whatever? Where I'm assuming in the barn that you have, I'm assuming it's built up a little bit above, any low-lying area. Are you going to put him in there or her in there for a period of time? And that's something that we need to be looking at, because there are places out there, and it's surprising to me when I know we've all driven around in the community to see some places that have flooded that could have a foot, 18 inches of water, and we never would have thought of it. We never would have thought that this could hold this much water. But you have that quickly. You can see that when you drive through Princeton, how quickly. We've got a great storm system here, but it's not designed to take, to take an excess amount of water in a short period of time. That's why you have some flooding on times with it. So, I know in my house, same situation. I've got an area that if water comes very quickly and rapidly, that it's going to pool for a period of time until it can dissipate. So the same thing with the animals. It all ties back to just watch the animals. Use good common sense. If you're looking for your house, looking to take care of it, same thing with your animals. Look to be able to
and when the storm is not going on, that's when you start thinking about that kind of stuff. You don't wait till the 100-year flood is in the middle of the 100-year flood and then try to figure it out. When it's not going on, and at the beginning of the year is a great time to think about emergency preparedness for your family, for your animals. What would we do if something horrible happened again? If we had to leave the house, where do we take the horses? Make those kind of plans ahead of time.
Yeah, to think about, because you're the responsible individual to be able to look after that. And it's one thing what you talked about with the ice storm. It's been several years since we've had the ice storm, but I know at that time assistance was able to be given by going to the judge executive's office to be able to point you in certain directions. Also, I think the extension service had programs that they could direct you to. Governmental services, even the federal government, the Federal Department of Agriculture with it, they can give you certain type of places to go to be able to give you the information. It's not wrong to ask for information.
Right.
Okay. What is wrong is to say, I need help, and not to go try to find it.
Well, and in the very beginning stages of that, though, even then, you were kind of on your own for a little bit when it first started, because that's when everybody's trying to, figure out, well, what do we got to deal with? And the infrastructure and that sort of thing. Oh, I love his cup. It might not be there for the first 24, 48 hours. So you've got to have a plan and know that until I can get that kind of help, what am I going to do?
Exactly.
So I think that'll help a whole lot if people can just, plan ahead. And I have an indoor cat. Well, my indoor cat's not going to live where my outdoor horse, they're not going to stay in the same spot. So, I'm fortunate that I've got family in the area. My mom and dad are just right down the road. So hopefully if one place floods and we need to move animals, we can move it to the other farm. But, not everybody has that.
Right. Tess, we always want to prepare for the worst,
right?
But hope for the best.
That's
always have the plan B in there as to what we need to be looking at. And I appreciate David coming on earlier to tell us, and I know he'll keep up on this. And no matter what would occur out there, whether it's now or sometime else, always be thinking about taking care of your animals.
Well, and we ran out of gas during the ice storm. Things like that. Make sure it's simple things. Make sure that if there's a storm coming, especially, make sure you got your vehicles, gassed up. How about, maybe the horse trailer? Make sure that the tires are up on the horse trailer. A few things like that can only take a few minutes can really save your bacon later on,
Exactly. And also, with horses out there, sometimes with the temperature extremes, might need to be blanketed. All horses don't have to be blanketed on. You have to make that determination yourself, depending upon the age, depending upon the health condition, on what they do. But be sure that you determine whether or not your horse or animal needs to be blanketed of some type on it, and be sure they have the adequate food and shelter, and always. And sometimes I know some individuals have told me in really bad weather, even though they have outside dogs, they bring them inside. Yeah.
Well, and even basements and things like that. Maybe they can hang out in the basement if you say, well, they're dirty. Well, yeah, but they're dirty, but you love them. Whatever dirt they got on them, that'll wash.
And if you're going to own them, you're responsible for them,
right.
and you're responsible for their care,
Yes,
and to take
right.
care of them the way that you're supposed to take care of them. So
my dogs have slept in my basement before.
there you go.
I would put my donkeys on the couch with me if I could snuggle up with them on the couch. I'd do it.
I figured your horses came to dinner anyway.
I'm telling you, I have had.
That's what I figured.
I have had baby donkeys in my arms, in my truck. I mean, they've been all over. They rarely. I've actually ridden in a horse trailer with one before because I didn't want him to ride by himself at the back.
Going to the next segment now that we're listening to the Ty Show now.
No. I'm not claiming that.
It depends on really and truly. A lot of people love their pets, and
Exactly.
they become family to a lot of people
Sure.
in a lot of different ways. And sometimes that is in the form of a donkey or a chihuahua or whatever it is. If you're going to be in charge of them and you've taken on that responsibility, it is your responsibility to take care of them.
Exactly. And what you were talking about, what you were looking at, of course, we were laughing and joking about it, but you didn't know what would have occurred.
That's right.
So, and you wanted to have the firsthand knowledge. So that's what you did.
Yeah.
And that's
you don't know, you know.
That's the thing you'll do again.
I
would
guarantee
too.
it.
I mean, no doubt about it. And that's what I really wish we had more responsible individuals that, as you said on it, Ty, you're the owner, you're responsible. I wish we had more individuals that would look at it that way, thinking they're pets, they're lovable, but at the same point in time, they have to be taken care of.
Right. And I know that your family is also very, involved in the animal shelter as far as taking. I know that you guys donated blankets not too long ago. It one of those things that as a community, that is part of our community, and we need to help take care of that as well.
Exactly. I know. Well, yesterday I took paper towels out to the animal shelter. I mean, that's because I tried to find out what do they really need that I'm unaware of. Okay, and I was told, probably about a year ago, we need paper towels. So that's something I try to put on my list to take out there. $10 a month.
Well, every once in a while you can find them on sale. You might be able to find them. You get a big sale of paper towels. Hey, it's time to take them out there.
Exactly,
no doubt.
We appreciate you being here this morning.
Well, thank you for
really
having me.
Good information, good tips.
And I can't let this go. You was talking about you brought your dogs into your basement. My dog slept in bed with me before too. So anyway.
Well, don't get me wrong.
Isn't that a regular occurrence for a lot of people?
We probably
exactly. Yeah.
We probably have different types of dogs, Bridget. Mine aren't the warm and cozy snuggle up kind of dogs. Mine are don't touch me.
No, well, okay.
Mine are protective guard dog, farm dog types that don't necessarily like to snuggle.
Okay.
I have a cat that likes to snuggle, but my dogs not so much. I will say I love the breed. They're Australian Shepherds.
Beautiful dog.
I love them. They're not some that just want to be petted all the time. They want to sit beside you. They want a little tap on the head, and that's about it.
They're a true working dog.
They're great dogs.
They're designed to guard.
Correct.
That's what they're.
It makes them happy.
Yeah, that's what they want to do.
Yep.
So they were happy. I couldn't get them to come in. I actually tried to get them to come in the main part of the house. They wouldn't do it, and I finally got them and lured them with bacon to go down into the basement, and that's how I got them down there.
Tess, of all the dogs I've ever had, never had problems getting them in my house. I've had problems getting them out of my house on stuff.
Sometimes, and you need to think about that too. If you've got dogs like I do that, they're not necessarily going to jump in the front of the pickup and go to town with you. If they're those types of dogs, you need to, think about, well, what do I do with them during a storm?
Right.
There's different things that you need to think about, and all of them, whether it's the goldfish, because Ellie just got a beta, so whether it's Ellie's beta or it's a horse or a dog that likes to snuggle up on your feet at night, just take precautions and for your family and your animals and your.
One thing we didn't mention though, and you just brought it up, in this inclement weather, whether now or whenever, you're making plans, provisions for you. Be sure you got some extra food for your animal as well on it, no matter what it might be. Same thing with horses. Be sure you've got that hay. You might have it in this barn that could be a couple hundred yards away. Bring it up to the stall. Get a few bales up there extra, because you might not be able to get out there as easy.
The mud.
Exactly, the mud. So be sure, whenever you're making provisions for yourself on what might need to be done, remember your animals as well, because they can't take care of themselves. That's our job.
Well, thank you. I love it when you come in. We hadn't seen you in a while.
Thank you for having me.
We sure do appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us for a while. And, of course, if you don't know Bridgie Miller, well, how come? I don't understand. But if you haven't, make sure that you say hi to him and tell him that you appreciate him, because Bridgie has been serving our community for many, many years. How many years now?
Oh, well, soon to be 64 next month, and I thank the good Lord I was born and raised here on it, and I practiced law here for about 26, 27 years, and I thank the good Lord and the people of Caldwell County for letting me be county attorney for 6 terms.
Bless your heart.
And, the good Lord took care of that, and with the people of Caldwell County, and I appreciate the opportunity to have been able to serve.
And at Christmas time, he was ringing the bell, so he still hasn't stopped.
And those are good things. And to go further on that, the individual that has done that probably for 30-plus years coordinated is Bob Hayes.
Right.
And because I remember, I think I started with Bob when he started back in maybe about the 70s on it. And I remember days where Bob spent many an hour out there before others came in and helped. So I'm going to tell you, Bob, awesome individual to be able to do that. He's done so much for this community on that. And like I said, with the Salvation Army.
We love our Bob. Bless his heart. Hey, it is 8:54 on Coffee Talk, and Bridgie Miller and Tess and Ty and all of us here at 1580 103.3 WPKY. And here's your WPKY Weather Edge. All right, Weather Edge Weather Center forecast. I left my paper on the other side of the room. Doggone it, I got it though. Sunshine today. Talk about preparedness, Bridgie. I wasn't prepared, was I? High 49. Tonight, clear, low 31. Tomorrow, sunshine, high 51. And then on Thursday, that 40% shot at showers after lunchtime, high 56. It is 39 at 1580 103.3 WPKY.
This weather update brought to you by the Cat's Den on Farmersville Road, Princeton. Food cooked to order and plate lunch specials on Sunday. You won't leave hungry.
This is David Harden of You Ride in Princeton, and we want your business.
This is Christy. And this is Casey.
And we'd love to help put you in a good pre-owned vehicle. We offer on-the-lot financing, too. Good credit or credit problems, we can help. You Ride is a proud sponsor of the Sideline Report, heard every Thursday on your hometown radio station, WPKY 103.3 FM. Just ask David about the You Ride deal of the week and take a test drive. You Ride on the Marion Road in Princeton. Call 270-365-3018.
First Southern National Bank's Southern roots run deep. Founded in a small Kentucky town, First Southern has always used their example, influence, and resources to help others make wise financial decisions. They know you want to be in charge of your money and to feel valued by your bank. At First Southern Bank, you're more than a number, which is why they've provided personalized service to their customers for more than 35 years. Visit fsnb.net to learn more. Member FDIC.
YourSportsEdge.com. We promised a new day in local sports coverage, and we delivered. But don't take our word for it.
The ability for local sports athletes to be covered and for information to be sent out to our local community, and I just think it's an absolute awesome tool.
It means Tree County High School. It means our students and most importantly our athletes in the high school competition.
YourSportsEdge.com.
1580 103.3 WPKY 856 with Tess and Ty. And we've got this huge, and normally I talk about big deals, because it is a big deal. But we've got another thing that's going on, and I love it when we get to vote for our favorites. And I think I have Kyle Rader on the phone with me this morning. Is that who's here? And he's from, of course, we have a group of sister stations as well. And, of course, Kyle is going to be able to tell us all about this new 2019 Best Of. And I think this is so fun because I like to tell everybody about who my favorite whatever is. And I think everybody does. And it's a special way to really thank that business and let them know how much you love them, right? Can I vote for more than one, Kyle? Oh, my goodness. Well, I bet you I can find. Well, and, that brings up a good question, though. If it's a restaurant, and I was looking at it a while ago, if it's a restaurant, maybe I have a restaurant that has, a couple of different restaurants, and I like one for breakfast, but I like the buffet at the other one. You can do that, right? One thing I thought was cool was one of the categories was agriculture. And I love that there's a whole section just for ag. And it's not hard to nominate either. If somebody says, oh, well, it'll take 15 minutes to nominate. But it really doesn't, does it? Well, and I noticed it when I was on it a while ago. I mean, there's some businesses that are already on there. Maybe, they were some that were on the ballots, in years past. And there's a little button next to it that says nominate. Now, that doesn't mean that they're already nominated. That just means that we just figured that that's one of the popular places in the area. So if you'd like to nominate them, we just made it that much easier for you, right? Well, that sounds like I can even do it. And I know you don't know this maybe, but I don't get along with computers really well, Kyle. Google is not my friend most days. But you know what? I navigated this really easy. I got on it earlier just to kind of test it out. And I like doing that because I don't want to tell somebody, something easy if I can't do it. So I go on there and I went right through it and I was able to nominate. I'm not going to tell anyone who I nominated, by the way, but I was able to nominate very easily. What's that phone number, Kyle? Well, I love that. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today and kind of explaining it a little bit. Because it is, I know it's part of our big deals thing too, but you know what? It is a big deal. And everybody has their favorites. And how about we pat them on the back and let them know? Here's a biggie, though. What if you're a business owner and you say, you know what, I know this may be, bad of me to say, but I'm my favorite. Can you nominate yourself? All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you, Kyle. And hey, have a good day. How about that? Well, I'll tell you, that's one of the easy ways to go on and say thank you to some of these businesses. And we try to do that every day, and we try to tell them how much we appreciate them. But a really great way to tell them how much we appreciate them is to actually get them nominated and begin voting here in not too long from now for the best of West Kentucky. And again, they cannot be voted on unless they're nominated. So you got to go on there and nominate your favorite so that they can win, because they can't win if you don't let them play. It is 9:02 with Tess and Ty and Coffee Talk and 1580 103.3 WPKY.
The voice of Caldwell County. We're 1580 103.3 WPKY Princeton.
News. I'm Lillian Wu. The U.S. out with a warning to ships in the Middle East as Iran promises to avenge the killing of a top general.
This morning, the U.S. Maritime Administration renewed a notice issued last week that there remains the possibility of Iranian action against U.S. maritime interests in the region.